Hello, good morning, and welcome to Morning Brew with me, Graham Hughes. It is Friday, the 25th of April, 2025. How's it going, everyone? In the chat, we've got Andrew, we've got Audrey, we've got SG, we've got Diz, we've got Simon Smith, we've got the person impersonator. If you'd like to join any of these beautiful, wonderful people in the chat, all you need to do is hit that little subscribe button. Lovely. And you'll be able to join the chat. Don't be a troll, or we will mute you and boot you. So before I get started today, big acknowledgement of Andrew Dixon. Thank you so much, Andrew Dixon, who has gifted 10 Politics Social memberships to the following people. Thank you so much, Andrew. That is really, really generous of you. We have LU2D Games is now a member. We've got Vardark, sorry. We've got Rdub as well. We've got Sabine. We've got Cavity FC. We've got SVXon 7. We've got Andrew Skelton. We've got Tomas Stendal. We have also Andrew Brown in there and also Bez Roth. So all of you are now members of the channel and get a little sexy rose next to your name, like Chris C and Anne Phillips and Witchy Goth and others. So enjoy your month's free membership, courtesy of Andrew Dixon. Thank you so much, Andrew. That is very, very kind of you. And a big happy birthday to the Witchy Goth. Happy birthday! Woo! Okay, so we're going to be talking about travel today because I like talking about travel. Hello, I'm Graham Hughes. I'm the first person to visit every country without flying. That's me. Hello, I've got the Guinness World Record. I'm in the Guinness Book of Records. In the book, page 200. The 2016 edition. I'm in the margin, like there's no pictures, but no, it's me. My name in the book. My name in the annals of history. My name in the most stolen book from public libraries in the world, which is the Guinness Book of Records. There's a record in that. Okay, so let's have a little chat about going to America, eh? And we'll talk about why you shouldn't go to America, and we'll talk about what people have gone through who have tried to go to America. It's not been great. So for me, this is a real personal issue for me. It's a real gut punch to someone who's dedicated their life to the ideal of travel. I want travel to be opened up to everyone. I acknowledge that I have a lot of male privilege, white privilege, English privilege, European privilege in being able to go out and see the world. And it's something that's always, I found quite heartbreaking, that when you go backpacking, or maybe not heartbreaking, that's a bad word. I mean, something noticeable. This is something that's noticeable when you go backpacking around the world. And this is this, right? You will meet people from Finland, Germany, Spain, Italy, Greece. You will meet people from Australia and New Zealand and Canada on the backpacking trail around the world. Americans, though, meeting Americans backpacking around the world, there's not so many. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why it is. Americans are slaves. I know they think they're free, but it really isn't the land of the free. It's the land of the slaves. Those people who live in America, the vast majority of them are a slave to the wage. They cannot leave their jobs for even a moment. They can't even imagine taking a year out and traveling around the world because the system is set up in such a way that you have to work 3 jobs just to keep a roof over your head and food in your belly. Heaven forfend you want to have a family or you want to do any of the normal things that the older boomer generation were allowed to do, that our generation don't seem to have the same privileges at all as that boomer generation. So I can see why Americans don't go backpacking. They don't have a year off. They don't have a gap year. They don't have time to go exploring the world because if they try, they could end up coming back to America and never owning a house, never starting a family, never doing anything with their lives because they've had the audacity to go out and see the rest of the world. And I think this is by design, by the way. And this is absolutely by design because the authoritarian forces, the deep state, if you like, that's what they call it. But actually, the reality is the deep state is run by the billionaires, the oil companies, the arms manufacturers, the tobacco barons, the merchants of death. They are the deep state in America, and they don't want people like you and I getting ideas above our station. They don't want people traveling, and they don't want people traveling who can't travel for whatever reason, traveling vicariously through someone they know or someone they follow or whatever, traveling off around the world. It's quite interesting. You watch American TV and you don't see anywhere near the number of travel shows that you get in the UK. And I've had trouble with this before because I'm stuck between two kind of forces, right? One of them is that in the UK, you're not allowed to present a TV show on normal television unless you went to private school. That's the rule. There are a couple of exceptions, like literally maybe two, maybe three if you count Diane Morgan with Philomena Kung. You have to pretend to be the most stupid and naive person. You have to do it as a comedy show if you're not even working class, if you're someone who didn't go to a private school, effectively. So that's the problem in the UK. The problem in the US is they don't like making travel shows. You think about the big American travel shows, it will be something that they've got to make it into a game show like Race Around the World, and I'm not knocking Race Around the World, but I'm saying they have to make it more than the destination. They can't just go. They can't have a TV show where they go to someone else's country and imbibe themselves in the culture of that country. They can't do that for some reason. So if you're a state-educated travel presenter with credentials, having made a TV series with Lonely Planet, National Geographic, and the BBC, you'd think those doors would open. But because I went to a state school in the UK, and because in the US they don't really make travel shows of that ilk, they have to be something else. It has to be the lost treasure of the aliens of the Aztec Empire or something. It's got to be something daft. It can't just be, travel for the sake of travel. And so they won't even let people in America travel vicariously watching the telly. This is the mad thing. And, it's kind of mind-blowing. Having said that, my TV show was on the Travel Channel in America. So, there was a day, not so long ago, about 10 years ago. Yeah, probably about 10 years ago, when the Travel Channel just had 24, I think it was the Travel Channel in America. And it was like 24 hours of my show. Like they just showed my show back to back, all 8 episodes, again and again, for over 24 hours. It was really surreal. People contacted me from America going, why are you on the TV on a loop? And I'm like, I don't know. The funniest story I heard about me being on the TV was it was screened in, it was broadcast in India. And I met up with a friend of mine when I was in Kerala in southern India. And a mate of mine from Liverpool, we went to school together, I've known each other for years. And he was telling me, because he was in a hotel room and he'd fallen asleep with the telly on, and my show had come on, the telly, while he was asleep. And he was having a conversation, half asleep, like dreaming, having a conversation with me, because he could hear my voice on the telly. And he woke up going, Graham, get out of my room, what are you doing here? And he sort of looked around and realised it was actually the TV. Anyway, I guess you had to be there. But yeah, this is a really interesting thing that happens with Americans. Americans, you would think, richest country in the world, surely they do the most traveling. The Americans who do go traveling are generally cruise ship passengers who go on a very curated journey around the Caribbean, usually, where they go to the places that are sanctioned or even owned by the cruise ship companies as they visit each individual island of the Caribbean chain or whatever wherever their destination is. Obviously, they stop a few different places along the way, but it's not the same as backpacking. And I'm not saying that backpacking is the be-all and end-all, because it's not, and it's not for everyone, and I get that. But it does seem very odd that you will meet more Canadians from a country with, 40 million people than you meet Americans on the road backpacking. And America's got 330 million. The population's just so much bigger. And yet, I think I've met more people from Switzerland backpacking than I have met Americans backpacking. I'm not saying that no Americans go backpacking, but just it seems a bit disproportionate. That's all I'm saying. Okay, we've had the mega chat come in, so I'm going to have to address the chats in a moment. We've got Umke. Thank you very much for the €2. Deep state is a deep shite. Thanks for that, Umke. I agree. Phil Spicer, thank you very much. A lot of my wife's family from the Dominican Republic want to go to the US. Her dad is there. Her sisters want to move. Worrying. Who am I to say please don't? I mean, we'll come to this, but I want to give some like a bit of a travel advisory if you are going there, what to do, what to say, what not to say, what absolutely not to say. So before we do that, we have had a mega chat. Thank you so much to Di for the £50 super chat. I hope I'm saying Di right. It might be Day. Di, let me know in the chat. Thank you. Done your homework on Rosaline Cunningham yet? Can you get free backstage passes anytime? Sent you a LinkedIn message, ready to publish your book. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. It's with the book publishing. I haven't got back to you because you sent me an email yesterday. I haven't got back to you about the book publishing. The issue isn't finding a publisher. I've got a publisher. The issue is to write the book, I would have to take maybe 3 or 4 months off working, doing this sort of thing, to concentrate on writing the book. And there's no way of getting a cash advance to do that. Like, I wouldn't need much, and it's a few £1,000s really, but like, I'd need enough. I'd need enough to make up for what I'm not earning on this channel. This is my only real source of income at the moment. And advances are very, very few and far between these days. I didn't get advance for the first book, and actually I've made no money whatsoever from the first book. And that, all in all, is probably about a year of industry making the first book. Because don't forget, I didn't just write it, edit it, do all the graphics, all that kind of stuff, all the maps and everything. I drew them myself. It was also the fact that I did the audio book, and I had to pay for a studio to read out the audio book because I didn't have a setup like this back then. And it ended up costing me hundreds of pounds, and that was money I never got back. So for me, it's like, maybe it's something I'll write when I retire, maybe, I don't know, but then I'm never going to retire. It's very frustrating because I've probably forgotten more about the last 3 years of my journey to every country in the world than I remembered in the first place. But don't worry, I've got my blogs to back up, that let me fill in the details, and I've also got my video footage from these various places. But at the same time, it's like, it's uniquely frustrating. I kind of believe that there'll be a point where I'll have enough spare time to actually pursue writing volumes 2 and 3 of the Odyssey Expedition books. And I'm going to be so angry. I'm going to come back as a vengeful spirit if I cark it before I finish writing those books. And I made a rod for my own back. The way I did it, I probably should have just gone the Michael Palin route of just basically editing and publishing my journal entries and all my blog entries as they were. But I decided not to go down that route. I tried to retell it as a story, and I don't know if that worked out. But thank you so much for the £50 super chat, and we'll have more of a chat about Rosalie Cunningham and also publishing the book. Thank you so much, and we've got loads of love coming in for Di. We've got Martin Harrow there, Mikey Famine, and Diz and Nick and Diff and Richie Goff, SG, Andrew Dixon and Saz all saying, wow, thank you, very generous. And please, thank you so much for the mega chat. I will wibble on a little bit longer than normal, even though 1 o'clock today, don't forget, we've got the agenda with me and Phil Morehouse. So, right, back to the main topic today, 15 minutes in, finally get there. I believe that the USA is no longer a safe destination for tourists. They're trying to turn the US into the USSR. That's the plan of the deep state in America. That's the plan of the oligarchs, the rich, the billionaires. I don't know why, because this is going to cost them shitloads of money, but it's what they want to do. They seem to hate America. They hate the idea of America, and they want it to fail and crash. There's an episode of The Last of Us from the first season, and I'm not a huge fan, I've got to say. I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, it's brilliant. And I guess as far as zombie genre stuff goes, it's good, I guess. It's better than most, better than Walking Dead, for instance. But at the same time, I'm a bit bored. I'm a bit bored of the zombie genre. It's always like, we'll go somewhere that seems safe, and then it turns out not to be safe. We've got to be quiet because otherwise the zombies will come and get us. And we have to do this. But anyway, I digress. There's a point in the first season where there's a gay couple, and it's a lovely little story about this gay couple who get together after the apocalypse. But there's a line where one of the guys, so I think it was from like Parks and Rec or something, but that's by the by. He says to the guy from the first season of White Lotus, he says, I wanted the world to end. You know, I wanted the apocalypse because I just hated everyone. And I thought, yeah, that's the attitude of so many Americans. They won't bring on the apocalypse. The world's going to truck on whatever, but that's what they want. They're just nihilists. They're like they're one of the worse than nihilists. Nihilists are supposed to believe in nothing, right? These people believe in the destruction of the United States of America because in their heads they've got it so twisted that America has become this awful place where people are allowed to do all of these depraved things like, I don't know, be gay. And they're trying to use these trade deals to try and destroy Europe as well. Like, Europe is now the land of the free. I mean, I don't know if America ever was the land of the free. You know, they wrote a constitution saying, oh, men are created equal, while they had slavery. I mean, those two things don't really, stick together very well if you think about it for more than a moment. But yeah, the way that the American trade people are going about this is saying, we've got to stop. There's free speech isn't working in the UK. Free speech isn't, and it's like, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, free speech is under threat. It's totally under threat. From what? From what is it under threat from? In Europe. In Europe. You're the country that is literally going through people's social media to decide whether they should come into America or not. That's not happening in France. That's not happening in Germany. That's not happening in Spain or the UK. Never. I've had my social media checked going into America, and that was 9 years ago. That was 9 years ago, my friends. So, it's not like this has just come on through Trump. This has been a long time coming. They don't want you going to America, and they don't want Americans leaving America either. They're trying to turn it into the world's biggest open-air jail. They want North Korea, America, to be North Korea. And they want to destroy everything that America ever even pretended to stand for. This is the depravity of these people. This is the moral turpitude of these motherfuckers who are trying to take everything away from you and your family and everyone you know and love. They want it all. You've got Elon Musk turning up with his fucking chainsaw, the richest man in the world, turns up with a chainsaw and says the system is broken. Do you know what we need to do? We have to take food from the mouths of starving children. It's the only way to fix the system. The same system that you've done rather well out of, Elon. The one that's made you the richest man in the world. Yeah, we need to... Wow. So, authoritarianism doesn't arrive overnight. It creeps in, and it has been creeping in America since 9/11. Let's face it. So before 9/11, you could do stuff like, I don't know, go to Cuba for a laugh on your boat. The Coast Guard didn't really give a fuck. They were like, yeah, whatever. You had lots of people who lived in Key West, would drive the 30 miles or whatever it is to Havana, have a few drinks, come back. I mean, drive on a boat. Obviously, you don't drink and be on a boat, but yeah. They couldn't do that after 9/11 because everything got replaced by Homeland Security. They have lost a lot less of a sense of humor about such things, and so these people from Key West were just kind of stuck in America. Maybe they could go over to the Bahamas. There's quite a distance. Havana was just there, man. It was just there. That was taken from them after 9/11. And then you had the Patriot Act, which restricted freedoms for Americans, left, right, and center. And then it's gone on from there. I mean, Obama was a bit of a reprise from the creeping authoritarianism, but at the same time, it was under his tenure as president that they brought in the electronic travel authorization to apparently replace the visa system, where you used to have to fill out a form on the plane that said you weren't a terrorist. Then you had to do it online. You had to do it a few days earlier. Maybe they'll give you an answer straight away. Maybe they'll keep you waiting for a week. Who knows? And like I said, it was 9 years ago. 9 years ago that I was knocked back at the border, trying to get into America. They photographed me. They detained me. They questioned me. They took scans of my iris. They looked at my social media, and they decided not to let me in. Not to let me in. Well, as a British citizen, with no criminal record, no speeding fines. I've never even returned a library book late. I'm a bit of a Boy Scout. I'm a lot of a Boy Scout. Let me tell you, right? I try not to break the law. I don't have anything for possession. I've never talked on the internet about taking drugs because I've never taken drugs. So and I've never ever overstayed a fucking visa, and yet they wouldn't let me in. They wouldn't let me in. They looked at what I'd done. They looked at my Wikipedia page, and they're like, "No, this guy's too much of a risk. He's too much of a risk." Made a TV show for their bloody company, for their National Geographic, shown on their travel channel. I was sitting there going, "I'm on the TV in this country." The last time I was here, I was sitting on the couch with Gayle King and Charlie Rose on the CBS morning show, and he's like, "No, I don't care." I'm just like, okay, wow. But I don't fit in the box, and that upsets some people. I know this because I've put up with this all my life. Graham, why didn't you get in this box? I don't want to. I don't want to get in the box. Yeah, but please get in. No, because the box is a coffin, and I will not restrict myself to being one thing or another thing. Right? I'm going to be my own person. And if I could give any advice to any kid growing up, or even an adult, be yourself. Be your authentic self. As long as you're not a fucking serial killer, be your authentic self. Be the person that you are. Don't pretend to be something that you're not, just to conform to what society or what you think your mother-in-law wants you to be. Fuck that. Fuck that shit. Umka, thank you very much for the €5 super chat. Woo! Will they put barbed wire on the coast like in North Korea? The most beautiful, fantastic barbed wire, best in the world. Trust me, Orange Idiot. Yes. Possibly. So another thing that happened after 9/11, 2001, was, and I've spoken about this before. So up till then, if you're on a cargo ship, if you came to America on a boat, you could get a shore pass, right? Shore leave, whatever they call it, like a port pass. You get a port pass, and that would allow you for 48 hours or something to actually leave the port and go and have a night on the town in Miami or wherever you are, right? And a lot of sailors would do this. And don't forget, a lot of these sailors sign 6-month contracts. They don't see their family. They don't see their friends for 6 months. And most of that 6 months is spent at sea with 15 other people, other men, floating around on the sea. And you can't escape. And you don't stop moving. You just keep moving 24/7. You're just moving all the time. You're just gently moving, constantly moving, never stopping. Do you get car stick? Do you get car? Yeah. Anyway, so they would come into port and they'll be able to have a night in the town. This was an ancient tradition. I mean, this dates back to the fucking Phoenicians. Like, this dates back to ancient Greece and ancient Rome and Carthage. Sailors would come into port and they'd want a night on the town, a night in the tiles. But America stopped that. And they made it so that if you arrived on a boat in America, you needed a visa. A fucking visa. And these lads from Burma, Myanmar, these lads from the Philippines, they can't afford a fucking visa for America. What, for one night? Are you kidding me? Yeah. They also made it so that your ESTA, when they brought that in, you needed that. And if you couldn't get an ESTA because, I don't know, you're from a country that America looks down on, you needed a visa even to change planes. So this predates Trump. I'm going to go on a bit about what's happened since Trump got in, but we have to understand that this has been a long process. This has been going on for a long time. The Americans, for whatever self-twatting themselves in the balls reason, I don't know why they just punch themselves in the balls so hard all the time. I can only imagine they've all been brainwashed by the deep state who own all of the media in America and own all the politicians in America, and they just do what they're told because they're not bright enough to think for themselves. I don't say bright enough. They're not industrious enough. They're lazy people. I mean, not all Americans. Hashtag not all Americans. Not all boomers. Should I do me little not all boomers animation? There you go. Not all boomers, right? But a significant proportion of them are too fucking lazy to think for themselves. So they get Fox News to think for them. They get the OAN network to do their thinking for them. Same way in the UK, lazy fucking dickheads get the Sun newspaper to do their thinking for them because they don't want to have to think. Thinking is hard. Woo-hoo-hoo. So embarrassing that, like, there's this kind of movement, isn't there, for self-betterment self-improvement, and it's always based on going to the gym and getting all buff and buffing yourself up and stuff. And that's the thing that like the toxic manosphere like puts above all else, you know. Improve yourself, go to the fucking library, pick up a book, learn something, learn another language, learn about the history of a people's, learn about the history of your own people, for fuck's sake. You know, like, just learn something. Oh no, I can't be asked. I've got better things to do. Yeah. Like watch Fox News on a loop, you know, for all eternity. It's always the same stories, isn't it? Going round and round. You can just like, you know, that Daily Mail headline generator where it just puts a word. It says immigrants cause skin cancer, and it's always like, you know, a cause of skin cancer, and then of cancer, and then it's always something to do with immigrants, always something to do with single mums or trans people or whoever their particular ire is focused on from one day to the next. So yeah, back to the main topic though. I would really, really discourage any of your family and friends to travel to the USA while Trump is in office. And I understand that for some people that's going to be very difficult to tell their friends or family not to go there because of, you know, if you've got family over there, if you've got someone that you need to see, a good friend who's maybe not doing so well, that there are reasons to go. But if you have the option, I would really, really strenuously counsel against it. Not least because I believe there are about 100 other countries out there that are more fun. I mean, you know, the very basic, like, it's more of a laugh. American culture, I always find this interesting. So with the way that the American sort of system set up, unless you're in a particular place, maybe like Key West, you could get away with it. But most places I've been to, they have some bars, but they're dead expensive. You can't really go on a pub crawl. Pubs aren't a big thing in America. It's all bars, and they're generally sports bars with like screens or with, you know, whoever's playing, whatever. And the food's the same everywhere, every fucking where. You could spend a lot less money just traveling around Europe, and you'll have the best experiences. You'll have different languages, different cultures, different cuisines, different drinks in every bar, in every pub. You look at the sort of pub culture in places like the Czech Republic or Germany, or go down to Andalusia, go down to the south of Spain, and just enjoy going to a pub and getting your tapas and drinking some ice cold Spanish beer. You know, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Or going to Italy, you know, going to a little cafe, and don't order latte though, because they'll give you a cup of water, cup of milk. I've made that mistake in the past. Can I get 2 lattes, please? Says Graham in his stupid British accent. Yeah, certainly, says the lovely Italian lady on the other side of the counter. And she proceeds to give me 2 glasses of hot milk because I asked for a latte. It just means milk. It just means milk in Italian. But yeah, I mean, when I think of like my experiences of traveling the world, and I've traveled a lot of America. Like I've been to New Jersey, New York. I've been to California, Nevada. I've been to Florida. I've been to Texas. I've traveled all over. And my best sort of memories of America, I guess, would probably be Key West, which is kind of like the least bit of America you could possibly go to because it's more like the Caribbean. It's got more of that vibe about it. Didn't like Miami. I'm not a big fan of New York. Can I say this? I'm gonna get into trouble here. This is like when they're in the panic room in Family Guy and it's filling up with water, and the dad says, I just want to say, Peter. He says, before we die, I just want to say I never cared for The Godfather. And I'm like, what? I just never cared for it. Okay. I don't think that New York's that great. And I'm going to tell you why in a moment. Okay, but first of all, Stephanie, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Woo! Have a great day all. Capital letters. Thank you so much. Thank you, Graham and team, for all you do. It is much appreciated. Oh, thank you, Stephanie, for the £5 super chat. That's really kind. Graham Haller is there. In 30 years or so, Harry's American-born children are eligible to run for president. That would be the revenge of George III. That would be fun. That is an excellent idea. We need to pitch it to Harry ASAP. Gingers for president, says SG. Yes, we get a lot of love for that. My mum's in the chat. Hi, mum. Better stop swearing now. Hi, mum. How you doing? So yeah, to go back to why I don't like New York. It stinks. Honestly, I've been to New York. Been in the winter. That was quite fun. I got to meet Dr. Donut. But when I've been to New York in the summer, it stinks. Oh my God. So New York is a city built on absolute consumerism, capitalism, and greed. Every square inch of that city is fought over real estate. And so they do not waste space by having things like back alleys. They have a few in the older areas, but most of it, no. So what happens is bin bags live out on the street and wait to be picked up by the bin men. And you can imagine walking through a city where there are bin bags full of rotting food, because something Americans absolutely love, along with, I don't know, being slightly racist, a lot of them, is just throwing food away, throwing perfectly good food away. It's a big tradition in America. And so you've got this food rotting, sweating in these plastic bags all over New York, and it just reeks. And the subway is disgusting. Like, Liverpool's got a bit of an underground. It's not much, but it's okay. You know, it's a bit grotty. It's a bit grotty. I think anyone who has gone to Moorfield Station will agree with that. Newcastle has a little underground as well. It's got a metro. And it's very grotty. It's orange, for God's sake. I mean, who picks an orange colour scheme for the livery and everything? Don't know what's going on there. But the American underground, it is grot central. Oh my God. Compared with the London Underground or the Metropolitan in France, the underground in France, or even subways in other places, even places like Uzbekistan, Tashkent in Uzbekistan, nicer, cleaner, fewer rats. The underground in New York is absolutely filthy, and it makes no sense to me, right? And you know, travel quite a bit. Not had to experience the kind of shit that they pull on these trains. So there's a couple of big problems. First of all, there's express trains. They don't stop at every station. You just kind of have to know what stations they stop at. Secondly, they will have a station called like 3rd Street. And you go, okay, I'll go to 3rd Street. And you come up. And the thing is, on New York, imagine the map of Manhattan, right? The line's going down. I think they're all their avenues, okay? 1st Avenue, 2nd Avenue, 3rd. And then you've got the streets going up from the bottom, 1st Street, 2nd Street, 3rd. I'll come to this in a second because that drives me up the wall as well. But if you get out at 3rd Street Station, because 3rd Street goes, you know, all the way from the west to the east of the city, you can get off at like a mile away from where you think you're getting off the train. Because you've essentially got 4 different stations, you know, within a mile of each other. And they're all called 3rd Street Station. The map looks like a bowl of fucking noodles because no one's bothered. None of these advertising execs on Madison Avenue have actually got their shit together and created an easy to understand metro map or underground map like we have in London. You know, circuit diagram, great. It's not you know, geographically accurate, but who cares? It gets you to where you want to be. So you've got trains that jump stations. It's fucking filthy. The map looks like noodles, and the fact that you get on a train and you end up on 42nd fucking Street or something. You're like, what the hell? I didn't want to be up here. And then you have to get on another train, go back, and then that skips a station. You're like, oh no, and you end up spending all day on the station. Plus, you can't get a day pass. Well, I don't know. When I was last there 10 years ago, you couldn't get a day pass. You couldn't just get a ticket, and then that was it for the day. You had to pay for each individual train journey. It was just, I don't know any other train system in the world that does that. It's just ridiculous. It's a shit system. It's another reason why New York is shit. The final reason why New York is shit, apart from the lack of green spaces, apart from Central Park, which was a holocaust for, not a holocaust, it's going too far, but they drove out the black people who lived where Central Park is now. Okay, let's put it that way. Um, the apart from Central Park, there's no green areas. You don't see many trees in New York because trees take up valuable real estate. You know, it's all greed. It's all greed. But the most frustrating thing for me, and you might think this is a bit daft, but I don't care. How many streets are there in New York? What is it? Is it? You got, does it go to like 148 or something? It goes 148 roads, and then you got the avenues, right? In Manhattan. I'm thinking about strictly in Manhattan here, but they do this all over America. They have the chance to give names to hundreds of roads, and naming stuff is like one of the joys of life. In the Bible, it actually talks about Adam naming the animals because it's kind of fun. You know, my little stepdaughter, she gives all of her cuddly toys a name. As soon as she's got a cuddly toy, gives it a name. And she knows who they all are. She's got all names for all of them. Brock, our badger over there, you know, he's called Brock because we came up with the name on the channel with the help of One Angry Pagan. Thank you very much. How did you not want to name the streets? Why? Are you robots? Is this to help AI or the robot overlords to just know where things... Why call it First Street, First Avenue, First Road, First Second Road? Why call it that? Why? I don't get it. Why number it when you could give them all boss names like Broadway? It just, I don't get it. I understand it from a kind of like mathematical point of view, if we're going to degrade ourselves to the point of being automatons. But I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Give me a sprawling, drunken spider web of roads and avenues and boulevards, like in Paris, like in London, that follow the contours of the geography of the area, that follow the contours of the heart. That's what I want. A reflection of the human condition, which is a little bit messy, and maybe all the roads aren't exactly dead straight, but I don't have the kind of brain that loves order in that way. I guess maybe I'm a bit disorganized. I don't know. But when I look at nature, I don't see any straight lines. I don't see numbers. I see everything is a little bit higgledy-piggledy. I look at a tree, and each one of those leaves on that tree are the same type of leaf, but they're different sizes, different shades, different green, different shades of brown. If it's coming into autumn, they're all unique, and that's what I feel like. Not just New York, but America takes away any sense of uniqueness. It tries to drill that down. Anything that comes out of America, they're like, oh, you know, this is unique to America. It tends not to be. It tends to be stolen from some other culture, or it's like an approximation of what we do in Europe. French fries, hamburgers. I don't know. I think it's a problem that you're never going to solve with America, but there seems to be a concerted effort by the people in charge in America to make America more communist than the communists. So they want people to eat the same food, drink the same drink, have sex the same way. Everyone have sex the same way in the same position with a partner of the opposite sex, nobody else. They want everyone to have 2.4 children and do everything that is mandated by the state. Keep all those nice straight lines, just number them, because what's the point of putting the fun in? Why name them after stuff? Where's the fun in that? You know, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. Why they would want so much conformity in a country that is supposed to celebrate diversity. They all have to pledge allegiance to the flag. And you know what? Just between you and me, and Mikey's watching as well, I don't think a lot of Americans know how fucking weird that is. They have kids, little kids, like 5 years old, right? They can't write yet, you know, they can't read. And yet they're pledging allegiance to the flag every morning. One nation under God. Who fucker does that? You know, maybe Hitler Youth might have done it. They'd probably do it in North Korea, right? Where else? You make your kids but swear allegiance. What? We've got to root out all terrorists. And they make out like this is some ancient tradition that goes back to the fucking Neolithic peoples. I'm like, no, it only started a few years ago. They only put the words under God in there in the 1950s. It was a response to the idea that the godless communists were going to come and take over America. They still do it. They think it's normal. And that's the big issue here at the end of the day, is that there are a lot of people in America, just like there's lots of Brits, who think that the world, the way things are set up for them are normal around the world. Because, normalcy bias. You kind of assume that they are. They're not. They're really not. Countries do things differently, and some countries do things a lot better. And some countries look at you and go, that's a little bit odd that they do that. I'm sure there's lots of people who think it's very odd that we're so obsessed with the royal family that we have to have a picture of one of them on the front cover of our newspapers every fucking day. Every day there's a picture of this family, or members of this family on the newspapers. I'll come to the newspapers in a bit, and I'm sure they're going to be there. Right, Umka. Oh, wow. Umka's been very generous this morning. Thank you very much, Umka. Almaty in Kazakhstan also has square streets network, but each street has a name. Destination stated as corner of 2 street names. Yep, that's good. Give them names. Give them names. Give us some humanity. Would you read a book that was just a list of numbers? No. Get some history. I'm not going to go off on one about modern architecture because I think a lot of you watching this know how I feel about it. But my biggest problem with concrete is it has no history. It's not rock. It's not even brick. It has no history. It's not wood. You can't tell where that concrete has come from. The sand for that concrete might have traveled halfway around the world. It's a liquid rock. It's a lazy shit way of building stuff, and it doesn't fucking work because within a few decades, it starts to fall apart every time. We are spending more money in this country trying to fix all the bloody concrete overpasses and flyovers and bridges and tunnels that we built in the 1960s that are now crumbling, leaking, falling apart than we are maintaining the medieval bridges that were built over 500 years ago. Just imagine that. You got a stone bridge from 500 years ago that needs no maintenance. You've got a bridge from less than 50 years ago. It was built in the 70s and it needs maintenance. Those stone bridges are taking cars over them. Cars driving over, big, heavy vehicles going over them. They were built 500 years and they're just like, yeah, whatever. We made of stone. Woo! Concrete, man, it's got no history. It's not culture. I hate the fact that we build the same building everywhere in the world. I hate the fact you can travel the world, as I have, and see the same building everywhere you go. Doesn't matter if you're in Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea, or you're in Libreville in Gabon, or you're in Buenos Aires in Argentina, or you're in Halifax in Nova Scotia in Canada. It doesn't matter. You'll see the same building. You'll see exactly the same building made of concrete. It's a block. Big concrete block. Nice. So attractive. I'm so glad I came halfway around the world to visit Milton Keynes. Alistair, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Graham, did the Japanese not use a fungus to map out the underground system plan? I heard, or am I having a Mandela's effect moment? I don't know if they used fungus to map out the underground system, but I just don't like straight lines. I just don't like them. You very rarely get proper straight lines in nature. The only things where'd you get straight lines in nature? Maybe the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. There's some straight lines in that, but each one of those little, are they hexagons, aren't they? Are they hexagons? I think they're hexagons. 6-sided shapes, right? Each one of them's different. They're a different height, slightly different colour. You've got the repetition of patterns, but every one of those patterns, every bit of that pattern is unique. And I find that pleasing. I don't know why. Just find it pleasing. Don't find it pleasing when, you put a grid system on things. But yeah, I don't know. Biological systems have been looked at for things like drainage. So I believe that, the way that nerve endings go out and branch off has been used for redirecting rivers and stuff to allow the shortest amount of space, shortest amount of time for the water to get to wherever it is. So yeah, maybe there's something in that. I don't know. Yeah, Trump promised to make America great again. And what he meant was great, like, I don't know, East Germany before the fall of the Berlin Wall, by the looks of things. Okay, so here are some of the cases that have gone ahead. I'm going to go on a little bit longer today because of Dai's wonderful mega chat there. I was going to set a goal, but I don't know if I need to. Should have set a little goal. Should have set a little goal. See if we can do this just for a laugh. We'll get 5 of any colour, so it'll just be like a quid. And if I get that in the next 15 minutes, I'll go on. I'll go on. I'll go on and on. People are not going to give super chats now just because I've said, like, no, Graham, shut up. Who was it? Was it Liebshin the other day? So how much do I have to pay you to shut up? Anyway, so yes, I've got some cases here that I've written down before the show started to talk about. First of all, there's Rebecca Burke, who was a Welsh artist who was detained for 19 days in a Washington state detention center for doing housework in exchange for accommodation. She was labeled an illegal alien and deported in shackles, like Hannibal Lecter. Then there was Jessica Brusch. She was a German tattoo artist. She was detained for 6 weeks. I was only detained for 6 days in Cape Verde. I was only detained for 6 days in Brazzaville in Congo. And yet, that was a pretty traumatic experience. This is a woman being detained for 6 weeks in California, accused of intending to work, and she was put into solitary confinement. Then you have the 2 German girls who are on the thumbnail of this video. That's Maria Lepere and Charlotte Paul, who are 18 and 19-year-old, respectively, German girls who were strip searched and detained overnight in Honolulu, in Hawaii. Their crime was booking an Airbnb and not having a full itinerary. Lucas Schiaff, he was a German tourist who was detained for 2 weeks after giving a wrong answer at the border, possibly due to the fact that English wasn't his first language being German, since he was German. Jasmine Mooney, Canadian actor with a valid work visa. So if they're going to make the excuse that all these people were intending to work, that's why we did. She had a valid work visa and she was detained for 2 weeks and shuffled around the country in chains. Juan Carlos Lopez Gomez, which is a great name. He is a US-born citizen. He was detained because ICE thought he was undocumented. His mother had to come and prove he was American. It's to an American citizen trying to get back into America. Romesta Ozturk, a Turkish PhD student at Tufts, detained without charge for political posts on social media supporting Palestine. Not Hamas, Palestine. And then there's Hunter Schafer, a US trans actor, who had a gender marker changed to male under new Trump rules. Absolutely disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. Traveling while foreign, queer, trans, brown, or critical of Trump is now a liability for America. And that will probably include most of the audience watching this morning, us lot. Borders are now militarized zones. You don't need to break any rules as such. They just need to not like you. This is the same process that happens in one other country that I can think of. And that country is Russia. Another country that I've been marched out of by the military. Last time I went to Russia, actually no, I went there afterwards. I got another visa. I got back in many years. Well, not that many years. A few years afterwards. But I was marched out of Kaliningrad, the Russian exclave of sandwiched between Poland and Lithuania. I was marched out of there by the military police. ESTA isn't protection, the visa that you have isn't protection. I've got an American visa. I'm not going to America with it. Because there's people who have got visas who have been detained. Citizenship of America, being a US citizen, isn't protection. And this is not about security. This is about control. This is about making sure people like you and I, who they regard as undesirables, don't get in. Andrew Dixon saw Sinners last night. Really enjoyed it and sat through the post-credit scenes. Yeah, if you're going to go and see Sinners, no spoilers, but stay to the end of the credits. You get a little bonus bit at the end. It is fucking fantastic. Hi, Mom. It is fantastic. It's such a great movie. Try to go in not knowing anything about it. No spoilers, please. You'll have the best time. I knew something about it that I wish I didn't know, because it would have been more of a surprise when it happened. But Ben, who I went with, Ben Chambers, he had no idea. He didn't know it was happening. So that was really cool. Talking of friends, have you seen Femi? Have you seen Femi got attacked by J.K. Rowling yesterday? Our friend Femi, yeah. I'm going to try and get him on the show tonight. I'm going to see if he wants to come on the Friday Night Social to talk about it. But yeah, you got the richest author in the world has nothing better to do than to troll our mate Femi. Wow. We rely on you being you. Never change, Graham, says Jane Lockwood with a £2 super chat. Oh, thank you. I will change my underwear now and again, but yes, I get the sentiment. I'll try not to change. I have changed. I have changed over the years. You know, I've become a lot more mellow about certain things, and I've changed my opinions about stuff because I've discussed it with people, and they've pointed out things that I didn't realise or I didn't know. And I made mistakes in the past. I made loads of mistakes. I've upset people, and you know, I've tried to make amends where I can. But some places I can't make amends. I'm not in a position to, and it kills me. It really upsets me that I know that I did that thing that was a bit shit back in the day, and I can't really take it back now for whatever reason. So yeah, I think the idea that people change is not really what you want. You want people to evolve. You want people to evolve in their ideas and their understanding of the world as more information comes in, and as they live life and have more experiences, and also vicarious experiences by reading about people in books or reading about personal experiences on the internet or whatever. It's a learning process, and I never want to stop learning. I never want to stop learning. And yeah, if learning about something changes my opinion on something, I hope it doesn't change my fundamental character. But you know, I can see that as a good thing. I can see that as a good thing. The more we learn. I just don't want to turn into a bigot in the old age. You know, I don't want to be someone just living in a bygone era, belonging to a world that's gone. It's one of the reasons why I try to support as much new music as possible and listen to the new tunes that are out, because I don't want to fall into the trap of just listening to the same bloody songs from the 1990s over and over and over again to the point where I don't enjoy them anymore. So, yeah. Anyway, right. But moving on. Richie Goff. Just a little one from me. Oh, thank you, Richie Goff. That's so kind of you. Thank you. A little heart there. Oh, the little smiley face as well. And then we've got Alice Durham. Thank you very much for the £1 super chat. And Andrew Dixon, £2 super chat. You don't need to do the super chat animation. Okay, I'll do another one. I'll do this one instead. It says, thank you. You're the best. Is that better, Andrew? Andrew's always very generous, so thank you. As Job says, what's the point of having a mind if you never change it? Yeah, indeed. J.K. Rowling, evil person. Leonora, yeah, absolutely. I'll be making a video about that later today, I hope. Yeah, so, like I said, look, this whole thing with America and its border security, it's deliberate, you know? It's not about security, it's about control. It's about control. They want to control their own people because... To go back to something that I've mentioned quite a lot, and I talked about this on Sunday Service last Sunday. Exciting things happening with Sunday Service, I hope, this Sunday, so watch out for that. I might be switching channels. But we'll see. But what I mentioned was the fact that travel obviously broadens the mind, and it's fatal to prejudice and all that kind of thing. But also, there's a thing where you travel somewhere, and you can change the people who you meet. Oh, I don't say change them. I mean, you can enlighten. I don't know what the right word is because I don't want to sound, you know, like these people are really stupid and the great white savior turns up and makes them, you know, but they can learn stuff from you, okay? And that can be good or bad. So I'm not going to say enlightened or anything like that, or, you know. I always say that when you get your passport, your first passport, what people need to know and what they should be explained to them is the fact that when you leave your country, you become an ambassador for your country, right? So don't be a dick, essentially. That's the main rule, right? But also, because you get people from Europe traveling to America and having conversations with Americans, and most Americans, lovely people, and they'll strike up a conversation with you. You might teach them something they didn't know about the UK, about the way we do things in Europe. That might be the first time they've ever realized that that thing they do every day, or that thing that they think is normal, like not having maternity pay, or not having Boxing Day, or not having Good Friday off, and not having Easter Monday off. That thing that they have in America that's a bit weird, like banning Kinder eggs and blue cheese and haggis, and everyone having a gun. That it might be the first time they've met someone from a country where that's not the case. We have stilted. It's okay. We don't die from it. It's safe, safer than the shit you probably put in your food, mate. And so you find that countries that want to control their population often make it insanely difficult for you to visit that country. There's a correlation here, because they don't need tourists in Angola, so it's dead hard to get in, right? They've got oil money. They don't need you. It's dead hard to get into North Korea. You've got to pay $1,500 to a company in Beijing called Young Pioneers Tours to have a tour and go there for a couple of days. And you're marched around Pyongyang, and you have to go where they tell you where to go. They want to control it. They don't want you talking to the people in that country, to the citizens. Why? Because you might give them ideas above their station. It's all about control. So not only has America seemed to have set itself up with this disparity between the ultra elites and everybody else, meaning that everybody else doesn't get the chance to travel like what we do around Europe. Don't forget, we can get in a car. I can travel. I can drive for an hour, and I'm in another country from here in Durham, right? You go to Scotland. They speak a different language in Scotland. They speak Scots, right? When I'm in Liverpool, I can drive for an hour. I'm in Wales. They speak a different language, different culture, different flag, right? In America, it's America in all directions forever, as far as the eye can see, from coast to shining coast, or whatever the line is. You can't get out. You can't get out. It's one of the reasons why I didn't really want to live in Australia when I was given the choice many moons ago, because it's Australia in all directions. I like living in Europe. I like having the freedom to roam around my own continent. And it's why I got so vexed and upset about Brexit, because it wasn't just the casual sadism of breaking up families where you had someone from Spain as the mother and someone from Britain as the dad, or whatever, and the people who were living in the EU, who were British citizens and EU citizens living in Britain, all this shit, right? Okay, all of that aside, like, one of the things that really stung me on a personal level was the taking away of my right to just bum around Europe. And I know that might seem petty to some people, whatever, but what really, really fucks me off is that right was taken from me. It was taken from you, unless you've got an Irish passport. Wasn't taken from Nigel Farage. Wasn't taken from Boris Johnson, Rees-Mogg, Gove, all those gobshites, Aaron Banks, Richard Tice, all those gobshites who told you to vote for Brexit, and Isabel Oak shit. All of them were born into money. All of them went to private school. All of them can afford to live and work anywhere they want in the world. But they wanted to take that from you. Auf Wiedersehen, pet. Not for you. They could do that if they want to. They want to go and work on a building site in Germany. They can still do that. You can't. They've taken that from you. I mean, you can, technically, but it's a lot more difficult than it used to be. You used to be able to just turn up. So my experience on the border with America, like, I found this. People said, weren't you scared on my journey when I was doing stupid stuff, like going 650 kilometers over open ocean in a leaky wooden canoe with no radio, no sat phone, no distress flares. I had to buy my own life jacket, which would have just kept me alive in the water for a few extra hours before the sharks got me if anything went wrong. People said, were you scared? They asked me, were you scared? Were you scared when you were in jail in a holding cell in Congo with blood splattered all over the walls? Well, no, I wasn't. And it's not because I'm dead brave or something, or, I'm not scared of anything. No, it's because I'm really stupid. That's it. I just didn't know. I just didn't know the danger I was in. I was like Ralph. I was like Ralph from The Simpsons. I'm in danger. It was. I just didn't, because I hadn't looked back on it. Looking back, I'm like, bloody hell, that was terrifying. But at the time, I was too stupid. I was just too like, what's the worst that can happen? Bloody hell. So looking back on my attempt to get into America in December 2016, my failed attempt to get into America. At the time, I wasn't that arsed. Trump had just been elected president. He wasn't in yet. He'd been elected the month before, and he wasn't in office. And it was shit because my publisher had come up from Cleveland, Ohio. He come to pick me up and take me back to Cleveland. We're going to spend a couple of days in Cleveland together working on the book. And that all fell apart, and I felt really shit for him. He gave me his coat because it was absolutely freezing. I'd just come from Panama. I've been living on the island, I was in shorts and t-shirts. It's the middle of winter. I'm in Toronto. It's like ice. Anyway, so Jared kindly gave me his coat, which I still own. If you're watching, Jared, I'll get that back to you at some point. And it just it didn't scare me. But looking back, like I was detained. I was detained for several hours. I was questioned about everything. I was, and I was trying to do my old thing of like being all cordial and jokey and like, come on, man, just, I've got a little tiny backpack. I'm here for 2 days. Here's my flight out of Toronto. I'm staying with this guy, a US citizen, who is the publisher of my book. Here's my Wikipedia page. Here's Jared's brother's Wikipedia page. He invented Jessica Jones. Like, oh my God, can you just, look, there's me on CBS this morning. Can you not just... No. Yeah, and the power goes to the head. You put anyone in a uniform and they think they're fucking Hitler, don't they? But looking back, if I had been on my own, right? Not with Jared, on my own, and I was a woman backpacker, 18 years old, off to see the world, and that happened to me, that would be majorly traumatic. And that was just for me. I didn't get strip searched. For them to strip search an 18-year-old girl, that's just not a perversion of justice. That is just perversion, full stop. Why would you need to do that? They have scanning machines in all the fucking airports that's, whiz around you and see if you got anything hidden up your bum. The fact they did that to an 18-year-old German girl is just beyond anything. And I think that maybe this might be the thing that wakes people up, because people have a little bit of inherent racism, I think, in most people, where they just go, oh, who did it happen to? Oh, it was a Mexican girl. Okay, well, what do you expect? You're a Mexican girl, which is horrible. And people shouldn't think that way at all, but they do. But if you want to get through to people who might be a bit Trumpy, who might be thinking of voting for refuck or whatever, point out to them, if they've got daughters, how would you feel if that happened to your daughter? And I wish we didn't have to do this. I wish we didn't have to have people, somehow surround what they're going to say. Like, I have a wife, I have daughters, I have a mother. Everyone's got a fucking mother, It's like, yes. And so I care about women's rights now or something. It shouldn't have to be the case. But unfortunately, for a lot of these meatheads, it's the only way to get through to them is to make it very clear that this could happen to them, or this could happen to someone that they know and love. That's how we get through to them. Because when it's just happening to Mexicans, when people from Venezuela, from people from El Salvador, they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. Because, racism, I guess. But what happened to me, it changed my view of America. It really did. Cat's trying to be very quiet in the corner. Hi. Where are you off to? You off to get coffee? Okay. All right, bye. I'm on my own now. Cat's just gone to get some coffee. So yeah, but what that did when that happened, I wasn't scared. I was just really angry. I was angry at the fact that it was me. And this is me being possibly arrogant, bit egocentric, right? The fact that it was me the person who's visited every country in the world, the person who every country in the world let in to their country. Now you imagine that. 201 countries I went to, and all of them let me in. Every single one let me in. And then I tried to go to the land of the free, and they knocked me back at the border. After doing all that, all I ended up doing at the end of it all was banning myself from getting an ESTA for life from America. And now I have to get a visa. For the rest of my days, I will have to get a visa to even change planes in America. And it did affect my view of America. I felt aggrieved, clearly, obviously. This was only a month after Trump had been elected for the first time. And that's when I started thinking America isn't what it pretends to be, what it puts itself out to the world as. It's just not. It's just not. And I've been to all the dictatorships. I've been to all the authoritarian regimes. I've been to Saudi Arabia. I've been to Angola. I've been to Turkmenistan, for fuck's sake. I've been to Iran. I travelled around Iran as an independent traveller. Well, not part of a group. I crossed over the border from Nepal into Tibet. I travelled around Tibet as an independent traveller in these incredibly authoritarian regimes. And they let me do it. America? Nah, you can't go to Cleveland for a couple of days, mate. No. Fuck off back to Toronto, you twat. One funny thing I should tell you. So after getting knocked back by the Americans, we went back over the Rainbow Bridge at the Niagara Falls and got to the Canadian side. They just stamped me out, hadn't they? And a few hours earlier, and they said, "Oh, are you coming back?" I said, "Yeah." They knocked me back, and the guy just laughed, and he went, "Fucking Americans." Stamped me into Canada. Thank you, sir. Fucking Americans. That was the start of it. That was the start of the Canadian-American War. But yeah, I've never been turned away by a dictatorship, but I was turned away by America, the land of the free. I found it fascinating as well. When I was in Key West in Florida, I was trying to get, and anyone who's read my book will know about this, I was trying to get into Cuba. And I was shocked at the time. I applied to the US Treasury Department to be able to go to Cuba with an American as part of my journey to every country in the world. And they turned me down. And chatting to people in Key West, they were like, well, you know, back in the day, before 9/11, we could just take you over there. No one gave a shit. You can get over there on a speed bike, on a what are they called? Jet ski. It's not that far. You know, you can literally get from, if you were mad enough, you could get from Key West to Havana on a jet ski. But if they do it now, I wouldn't get into trouble. They just wouldn't let me back into America. That would be the thing for me. But for the American who took me over there and then came back, they could be found guilty of trading with the enemy. They could be given a massive fine. They could lose their boat. They could lose their captain's license, and they could ultimately end up in jail. So who would do that for some random scouser who turns up in Key West who's like, hey, can anyone take me to Havana? Can anyone take me to Cuba? I'm like, fuck no, sorry. I watched the movie Sicko with Michael Moore, where he's talking about the American healthcare system. And in that, he jumps on a boat and goes to Guantanamo Bay, and then he goes to Cuba and has a look at the... And I thought, oh, I'll just do what he did. I'll just go to Key West. So note to anyone listening, right? If you're going to try and get to Cuba, don't try and get there from Florida. Try and get there from Cancun. You want to go to Cancun. So if you do what I did and you start in South America, you do the Caribbean countries, except for Cuba for whatever reason, and then you get to Panama, go up through Panama, go into Belize, right? Go to Punta Gorda, and then continue north through Belize into Mexico, maybe go along the coast, goes to Tulum, where there's this amazing Mayan city on the water. It's breathtaking. Then go all the way around to Cancun. Cancun's a bit of a shithole. I don't like Cancun. But you can go to this little island called the Island of the Women, I think it's called. I might be getting this. I might have just been drinking too much. I don't know. But from there are boats, and someone will just take you over to Cuba, because people just go it all the time because it's nice. But I just want to talk a little bit. And I know I've got 10 minutes over time already, and we haven't even looked at the papers. But I just want to talk about how stupid this all is. Like, Trump's border regime is killing the golden goose. Tourism in America is a $2.36 trillion industry. Trillion with the T. That's a million. A million. It supports millions of jobs around America. The 10% loss that it's seen in Canadian visitors to America, and don't forget, it's not even summer yet. It's not even summer, but it's already cost at least $2.1 billion and 14,000 jobs. The 2025 forecast for tourism in America has been downgraded from plus 8.8% to minus 5.1%. Ooh. And this is money from other countries. This is people working for money in someone else's country, taking their Canadian dollars, right? Taking their Canadian dollars and then spending it in America, turning it into US dollars and spending it, then taking money out of their country and then putting it in America. And America's like, no thanks. Your money's no good around here. Oh my God. Oh my God. Air Canada is cutting routes. Hotels in Bermuda and Portugal are reporting 20% surges in uptakes of people trying to go there instead. European Airbnb bookings are up 32% from Canadian tourists, not overall, sorry, just from Canadian tourists who are skipping the US and going to Europe instead. The UK, Germany, Denmark, Portugal, Finland, and New Zealand have all issued travel warnings to people like you and me who are thinking of going to America. And, Canada's former Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, said it's time for Canadians to choose Canada. Go on holiday to Vancouver, go on holiday to Halifax, Nova Scotia, go to Newfoundland, go somewhere nice, go somewhere that isn't America. Even the 2026 World Cup is in doubt because the visa delays, and I could talk for another hour about my trauma of trying to get a fucking visa for America. Visa delays of up to 700 days for some countries. And don't forget, not all of the games are going to be played in America. The final is going to be in America, but it's going to be spread out. It's a North American tournament, so it's going to be spread out between America, Canada, and Mexico. The way things are going, it might just be Canada and Mexico, and people just have to fly over the States. Tourism policy is bad when, Canadians would rather spend their money going to Belgium. Sorry, that's a bit of a dig at Belgium. I don't know why I said that. Belgium's great. Take that back. Belgium's cool. I like Belgium. Great chocolate. Great beer. Ooh, beer and chocolate. Now you're talking my language. Yeah. Do you speak Belgian? It's not a real language, but chocolate and beer. That's my Belgian. Why is Trump doing this? He's not protecting America. He's isolating it. These border crackdowns are like political performance to appeal to their stupid dickhead inbred MAGA base. It's back to the cargo cult. They think they're going to stop tourists coming in. They're going to put tariffs on everyone, and the cargo, the magic cargo, the merchandise is going to fall from the sky. The goal isn't to fix immigration; it's to build a fortress, a prison state. He's turning the US into the USSR. Fear-based governance, surveillance and arbitrary detentions, hostility to outsiders, loyalty tests at the border, censorship, book bans, cultural isolation. They've even got the fucking gulags set up in El Salvador for undesirables. It's the illusion of strength which is masking institutional decay. And he's not building a wall. He's building a fucking gulag, fucking Wi-Fi. Detaining tourists sends a clear message to anyone who's thinking of going to America with their kids. Do you want your kids to be put in cages? No? Okay, well, don't go to America then. You are not welcome. That's the message that America's putting out to the world. I know there are a lot of Americans, maybe some Americans watching this, thinking, "No, Graham, that's not what we want people to think." And I know it's not what you want people to think, but it's what they're thinking. You put kids in cages. We're seeing photos of kids in cages. We're seeing pictures of people in El Salvador detention camps, death camps that look like they're in a concentration camp with their heads shaved and all piled on like 17 to a bed, just like in the death camps of the Nazis. Like, can you not see the similarities here? You think that's going to make you want to take your kids to Disneyland? I don't think so. America is hemorrhaging its soft power, the cultural influence that it once exported freely to its own enrichment is now being thrown off the cliff when students, artists, academics, even entrepreneurs stop visiting. The long-term damage begins. We've got the loss of innovation, the loss of collaboration, the loss of just goodwill. The world is moving on. There's 1,000 other places to go in the world. Places that offer safety and respect and common decency. Trump's border fascism isn't just cruel. It's just so stupid. It's just like the triumph of the fucking idiots. It's just madness. Absolute madness on every level. If Trump was being controlled by puppet masters in Moscow, name me, in the chat now, name me one thing that he would do differently. That's the challenge right now. One thing that he would do differently if he was a puppet being controlled by strings from the Kremlin. Please let me know in the chat if you can think of anything that he would do differently. Travel should not be a gamble with your dignity. You know, this isn't about hating Americans. This isn't about punishing Americans. This is about not rewarding fascism. The difference. And by all means, support your American friends and American family, but don't fund Trump's machine. In the same way that people were told not to visit Myanmar, not to visit Burma because it propped up the Slork party, the military junta over there. Don't go to America. Just don't. Try and boycott American products as best you can. Send the message that this is unacceptable to everyday Americans. Because it's up to the everyday Americans to stop this. The Constitution's not going to ride over the hill on a white horse to save them. Keep saying this. It's not going to happen. A nation that shackles tourists has already shackled itself. End of. That's the lesson to learn from this. You know? America is become the world leader at punching itself in the dick. That is it. That is where we are now with America. And you're like, how can you be so fucking stupid? And it's because of the media. It's because they drink the Kool-Aid of Fox News and OAN and Joe Rogan. All those twats online telling them bullshit that they want to believe. They want to believe it's a big conspiracy and they're the only ones who can see through it. I'm not talking about shadowy cabals. They're doing this in front of everyone's fucking face. They're doing it in front of them. They're dancing naked in front of them. And all these Americans are going, what? They're fine clothes these autocrats, these oligarchs are wearing. Oh, the finery, yes. Well, actually, they wouldn't talk like that, would they? They would talk like, oh my God, have you seen the lovely velvet trail on that dress? It's like, they're not wearing a dress. They're not wearing anything. They're naked. And, oh, I can definitely see some fine clothes. Fine clothes. So, there are 1,000 alternatives to American travel. And I would recommend them all. There's one last thing that I would say about this as well. Before I forget. Flying in America has got increasingly more dangerous over the last few months. That's all I'm saying. There's a plane that just spontaneously combusted on the runway the other day in America. And multiple plane crashes, the Trump did that. Well, he was allowed to do it by the people who voted for Trump. Nice. Time for the papers, Graham, says Leapshin. Oh, go on then. I've gone 20 minutes over. Although I feel like we've covered a lot of stuff. Have we covered a lot of stuff? I don't know. Maybe we have. Right. Let's do this. Where are we? We have the the I newspaper here. Jail if they fail. Polluting water bosses finally face prison for covering up sewage spills. There's a woman there covered in blood, which is a quite horrific picture. I'm just going to take that off the screen because it's a bit horrible. But I believe that was someone who was injured by the massive attack on Kyiv yesterday, in which dozens of people have been injured and killed. And Trump was like tweeting his friend Vlad, going, "Hey Vlad, why are you blowing these people up? Because there's a war on, you fucking moron. Hey Trump, there's a war on. There's a war. Whoa, hang on. Oh my word. Oh my word. We have just got, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go to the main screen. We have just got a hyper chat. We've just got a hyper chat. Oh my God. Thank you so much to Ari for the £100 super chat. That is hyper chat. Thank you so much. Thought I'd get out of the UK for a bit and go somewhere new. It's been the best time of my life. Met the best people ever. Check the news to see Labour decides I'm not a real woman while I was gone. Maybe I'll move somewhere else. Getting too much, honestly. Well, you have a home here on this channel, wherever you are in the world. I've got trans friends who are talking about moving to Ireland. We have freedom of movement. If you've got a British passport, you can live freely in Ireland. We have a common travel area. And Ireland is now way more progressive on these kind of things than the UK is, which in a way is kind of mind-blowing because traditionally Ireland was quite conservative in matters like that, but not anymore. And it's a beautiful, beautiful country. But also, we're going to have to be working on setting up resources for trans people to be able to travel freely around the country. Something akin to the Green Book that allowed black people to travel around America back in the day. We're going to have to do that. And it's a shit thing to have to do, but it's going to have to be done. And we're going to have, obviously, the fight it is going to go on. We will win in the end, but it might take a while. Some of the other things that have been suggested by people like people in the chat and also Rachel Harris is to get yourself a radar key so you can use disabled toilets. You can buy them off the internet for £5. I'd really recommend that. And we need to have a campaign like we talked about on the Friday Night Social last week about businesses having stickers on the door saying trans friendly. This is a trans friendly environment where trans people can feel safe. And if people are going to be bigoted scumbags and go, "Oh, I'm not going to go to this business because it allows trans people in," they're in the vanishing minority. There was about 7 women outside the High Court or the Supreme Court a couple of weeks ago, right? There's about 7 of them. There were literally thousands of people on the street last Saturday to protest against it. Thousands of people on the streets to say this is wrong. We know it's wrong. People know in their bones it is wrong. It is absolutely abhorrent what the Supreme Court has decided. A group of 5 elderly cis-het people who were born before homosexuality was legalized. These are people from another world, another planet, another universe compared with the rest of us. And one of them, the main guy, is a neighbour of bloody J.K. Rowling, the troll of all trolls. Just want to say before, someone has a go at me for being ageist. Not all boomers were on the Supreme Court. Only 5 of them. Indeed. Anyway, so thank you very much to Ari. You are absolutely brilliant. And I want you to live your life as your authentic self. And if you do want to go traveling, if you do want to get out of here for a while, I completely understand why. And if you want to get in touch with me, go to grahamdavidhughes.com, go to the form at the bottom of the page, and let's have. I can give some advice. My advice right now would be Thailand, Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, even just cool, really cool places, and they are remarkably chill. about people being trans and living their authentic life. Something that we're not in this country for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why. Ari, member for 9 months. Love you all. Been a minute since I caught Graham live. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Really, really appreciate it. I'm gonna give you thank you. You are the best. Gonna put that back up. I like that. Thank you. Seriously, thank you so much. Okay, let's get back to the papers for a moment. Justice for Jill. This is Jill Dando, who was shot dead on her doorstep. We tracked down second witness who put Serbian assassin in the frame. Calls grow for a new probe into 1999 murder that shocked the nation. There's Jill Dando, who used to present Crime Watch. Police are being urged to launch a review after we found new evidence linking a ruthless Serbian assassin to the Jill Dando murder case. It was so weird. It was such a weird case. And then there was a guy, Barry, was it, who didn't do it. He named himself after like Freddie Mercury's original name. Bizarre. There's a picture on The Guardian again of a woman who's got blood all over it. It's horrible to look at. Vladimir stopped. Trump in rare rebuke to Putin after Kyiv strike. I'm going to move on. Look, I know that I can't be alone in really, really not being able to cope with physical injury like that and not being able to help. You know, I've been in situations where there's been a car accident or something, people have been badly hurt, and I've rushed to their aid and helped them out and all that. There's something about a picture of an injury that I think it's partly a bit of, I don't know, body horror for me, but also more than that, it's like I can't do anything about it. I hate seeing suffering. I really don't appreciate it when people post pictures of animals that have been tortured on the internet, you know, on Facebook or something. I'm like, please, I can't. It upsets me on a fundamental level. And I know there are people out there who have to deal with this stuff every day, but I think if it's real life, if it's something that you can actually be there for that person and you can help, it's very different to just looking at a picture and just feeling so fucking helpless in the face of the suffering of somebody else. So I'll skip it. But I mean, don't think I'm a twat for skipping it there. Ori says, thank you very much for the super chat, Ori. You don't need to give any more super chats, really, honestly. Thank you so much. In Japan right now, considering Thailand, yeah, I would seriously recommend Thailand. Thailand is a bloody good laugh. And I've always had a great time in Thailand. I've always had a really good time in Thailand. Ruth Guthrie, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. You're a wee gem, Graham. Oh, thank you. Oh, little gem letters. We got on the Daily Mail, we have a picture of Florence Pugh, Barney McGrew, Cuthbert Dibble, Grubb. And then we've got new online safety rules will leave children in danger. I'm in danger. I got a email back from my MP yesterday. It takes a while to get stuff back off my MP at the best of times, but I know that she's quite a busy lady, and I do write to my MP quite a lot, as you can imagine, because I can't just sit here saying to people, write to your MP, and then, you know, not write to my MP myself, because that would be a little bit hypocritical, I believe. But I'm going to come to that in a moment. But first of all, I'll just read out the front cover of the Tory graph. Hour by hour, why we wake up at night. And there's a lady with nice boobs on the front. Cheap thrill. And then there's a woman with a flag, which is upside down. Well done, love. Well done for flying the flag upside down. Well, it's not. It's just, I guess the flagpole is to the left of the. She's holding the flag. Obviously, it's reversed. But yeah, turn it round. Turn it round. Turn it round, love. Are you in distress? Starmer challenges Trump peace plan. PM stands by Zelensky and refuses to back giving away Crimea in Telegraph interview. So, something very important that you need to understand. I need to understand. And maybe Donald Trump needs to understand. Zelensky can't give away Crimea. It cannot be done. He cannot give away Crimea, okay? Because, ironically enough, he's not a dictator. If he was a dictator, like Vladimir Putin, he could do what he wanted. And if anyone objected, he'd have them killed, like Vladimir Putin. No. He has to take things through parliament. And he has to ask the Ukrainian parliament if it's okay if he does this thing, right? He doesn't have absolute authority. But when it comes to a peace deal, something like the deal is that the Russian scumbags, the thugs, the rapists, the murderers, the mobsters, they get the fuck out of Ukraine and don't come back. And there's reparations to be paid. Zelensky can't agree to that either. That has to go through Parliament. They have to vote on it, right? For that peace deal. Even if it's like boss for Ukraine. He can't unilaterally go, yeah, that's great. He has to get the support from Parliament. I.e., he couldn't declare a state of emergency and suspend elections. The Parliament had to do that. And the Parliament voted, like, there was one person in the whole Parliament, in the Ukrainian Parliament, who said no. Okay? The rest of them said no, emergency powers, we're in an emergency at the moment, we're going to suspend elections, like what the UK did in the Second World War. We suspended elections because we were at war. Now, the thing is, there's another layer to this, right? Which is if Zelensky even wanted to give up Crimea, which he doesn't want to do, it means changing the constitution of Ukraine. So this isn't a case of just, having a hands-up vote in Parliament, and yet if you get over 50% of the vote, you get to do it. No. This means changing the constitution. And just like changing the constitution in America or any other country that's got a written constitution, it's bloody difficult to change the constitution. There's a process that needs to be gone through to change the constitution, to allow Zelensky to say, yeah, all right, you can have Crimea. But Trump doesn't understand this because he's a dickhead. Anyway, I'm just trying to find my message from Mary. Oh, there it is. Okay. So going back here, Starmer challenges Trump peace plan, and then we've got Starmer with a massive head for some reason. He's got a big head and a helicopter. Cyclists face life in prison for killing pedestrianists. So cyclists who kill pedestrians are to face life imprisonment under new laws. The offence of causing death by dangerous cycling will be brought into line with motoring laws following a series of amendments tabled yesterday. The Telegraph can disclose. I don't know if I disagree with that. I mean, if you kill someone through reckless behaviour, why does it make any difference whether you're in a car or on a bike? You've killed someone. We can discuss, but seriously, I mean, some of you might venomously disagree with me on this one, but I don't see a problem with it. Trans Britons fleeing for asylum, claims Spear. Trans people are seeking asylum abroad amid fears for their safety after last week's Supreme Court judgment, a Labour peer has claimed. Yeah, they absolutely are. We've got some of them in our chat today. Hello. Jobless young won't work for under 40k. Yes, they will. Some more bullshit from the Telegraph. So let's go back onto this. New online safety rules will leave children in danger. New online safety rules put the profits of big tech firms ahead of children's safety, campaigners warned last night. In an angry backlash, parents and the Children's Commissioner said Ofcom's long-awaited rules didn't go far enough. And in some respects, I agree with this. So I wrote to my MP a month or so ago talking about my concern about the online safety bill and how it would actually be, presented. And I gave some detailed examples of what they could do. Something that I've spoken about on this channel before, about changing the hardware and having what I call junior versions of tech to make sure that they cannot access the full internet. They can't access apps that are not programmed onto that particular thing. In response, I will be happy. Let's go from the beginning. Thank you for your email and for sharing your thoughtful insights about the Online Safety Act. I appreciate your concerns regarding the need for stronger measures to safeguard children online. In response, I will be happy to write to the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology to raise your concerns and seek clarification on whether hardware-based solutions, such that you proposed, are being considered as part of the broader framework, and ensure that all the points raised are included and seek an explanation of the government's wider thinking on this matter. So, I don't know. Nothing might happen. But who knows? From just writing to my MP, I might have slightly amended what goes into the Online Safety Act. Who knows? I might get assassinated now by Apple and Samsung ganging up. Samsung will be like, we gave you an island and this is how you repay us. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know. But the thing is, right, to all those tech companies, I think they should want to do this. I think they should want to make junior versions of their phones. Do you know why? Because every single person who gets a junior version of their phones, it means another phone that you've sold, and you will be able to sell another one when they're old enough to have an adult phone. Do you see? Do you see the marvel there? They've got a phone, but it won't let them do the full internet thing. So they'll want the main. So you're selling twice as many phones. You're gonna bump, well, not maybe twice as many, but you're gonna bump your sales. It will bump your sales. Just make junior versions, and the hardware does not allow it to be cracked in any way. You can't just plug in a USB thing that allows you to use it as a normal phone. You just can't. Okay, you just cannot. Another sensible change to the law, says Dave Peacock. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not on the side of the whole fucking war on cyclists. I appreciate that they are using the road like anybody else. I live in a rural-ish area, semi-rural area, and yeah, sometimes it's frustrating. You're driving along, especially if you're in a hurry, and there's someone struggling up the hill on a bike, and you're like, well, yeah, I'm going at 5 miles an hour here. You can't overtake them because it's on a bend or whatever. But having said that, I appreciate the fact that, people still go around Durham in horse and buggies, by the way. You still get like someone going past, and you look out the window and it's someone in a horse and buggy, right? Okay, so it's normal. It's normal. There might be, but I'm a genuine believer that the cars are trucks, lorries, buses are the least important vehicles on the road. Then cars, then anything else that happens to be on the road, more important than the car, more important than where you need to get to, okay? Because too many people die on the roads each year in this country, and it's something that I think has affected so many of us. I think most of the people watching this will know someone who has died in a car accident, and we need to stop it. And making things more safe for people who are using the road as a cyclist or as a pedestrian crossing over the road, fucking fantastic. Bring it on. But at the same point, I don't want to have people who are riding their bikes thinking that they own the road now. I'm in a cycle lane. Pedestrians shouldn't be in a cycle lane. But, acting like a driver does with that aggressive way of like, how dare you be in my road? I'm going to run you over now. I think we need to have, burnt into people's minds the idea of the pyramid. The pyramid, with lots of disabled pedestrians at the top, and then able-bodied pedestrians underneath, and then cyclists, and then everybody, and it goes down, because you've got to have the people who are the most vulnerable to what you're doing. If you're moving a metal thing at 20 miles an hour and you ram into a human being, you're probably going to do a lot of damage to that human being. Also, I think that it should be mandatory to wear helmets on bikes. So many people, head injuries, deaths caused by people falling off the fucking bike. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a car accident. It could just be literally falling off a bike. And my problem with wearing a helmet when I was younger was they looked daft. Hated them. Like, motorcycle helmets look fucking cool. And I grew up in a motorcycle household. My dad was a big biker. And if you take me to work or take me to school or whatever on a motorbike, it was always really cool. Put on the helmet. You look cool with a motorcycle helmet. But, cycle helmets, they're like the antithesis of cool. I'm sorry, they're just not cool. But what I wear, right? Retro 70s skateboarding helmet. I don't care if I look like an old man. Dressed up like a kid from the 80s. Don't give a fuck. I look cool. I look cool in my helmet, and I wear it when I go out. Especially if I'm cycling with the girls. Because, they need to have a good example set. I'm a cyclist, only killed myself so far, says Saz. Yeah, I think that we should have a system where when you are, if you're going to be cycling around, you should be given the safety that you deserve. And one of the things that drives me up the wall as well, another thing, is that, say somewhere like Liverpool. So we had the M62 motorway. It ends on what's called Edge Lane, and that Edge Lane runs all the way into the city centre, right? It's a dual carriageway. And a few years ago, when Liverpool was getting all this money from Europe, hurrah, they completely relayed the road. They put new street lamps in with like Edge Lane written on the street lamps in little blue letters that glow in the dark, and it looked really cool, you know. They spent all this money, and there was a bottleneck, right? There's a church on one side, there were houses on terraced houses on the other side. They knocked down the terraced houses, unfortunately, and they widened the road, right? So it's a dual carriageway all the way to town. It used to go down to one lane, and they spent all this money on this, you know, realignment of the road and retarmacking it and doing all this stuff, but they didn't put in a cycle lane. Why the hell didn't you put in a cycle lane? Like, you're doing all this stuff for the motorists, and this is the main way to get into town for most people, like whether you're in a car or on a bike. And they didn't put in a cycle lane, and I'm just like, what? Who put their hand up and say, hey, should we put a cycle lane in? And then like everyone went, no. I'm like, if you ever watch Jay Foreman on the internet, who I really, really recommend, not least because he once dressed up as me and my mum, he does a show called Unfinished London, and I think he did one about, I think it was one of the Unfinished London episodes he did about cycle lanes around London, and the fact they stop in like Kensington because the Kensington Council don't want them in their particular area, because it's a very Tory thing to not want cycle lanes. Whereas everybody else is like, well, we need to protect cyclists. It's crazy having them on the road, especially a 40-mile-an-hour road. People are like bombing it on this straight track, you know, going through red lights and whatever. And cyclists are uniquely vulnerable. We shouldn't have a system where cyclists have to manage to go round roundabouts. It's incredibly dangerous for cyclists to be taking on roundabouts. They shouldn't have to. There should be infrastructure there for cyclists to move them away from the road or have their own trails, you know, their own tracks to get into town and out. And it's quite interesting that it's the Tory councils that are like, no, we're not having a cycle superhighway here. And so like the cycle superhighway kind of stops when it gets to Chelsea, and then it starts again when it gets to the other side of Kensington. Benjamin, I had an Italian professor who said people should not be allowed to call people and disrupt you while you're in your routine. Well, I mean, yeah, we're on call all the time now. It's like we're all doctors. And remember in the 90s when the doctors had the pages and they're like, I'm on call. We're all on call now. No one, you're never allowed to have a moment alone. Fully agree with the cyclists facing that penalty. Seen too many cyclists near crash into pedestrians crossing the road when traffic lights are on red. Yeah, Colin, I mean, look, it might seem a bit extreme, but I think people need to understand how dangerous it is to drive like a twat. Whether you're on a bicycle, on a motorbike, or in a car, or in a truck, don't drive like a twat. And give people right of way. Give pedestrians right of way, always. And if that means stopping, yeah, you stop. You know, this idea that, oh my God, once I start, I can't stop. And I know it's more difficult to start on a bike, you know, because you have to press down to get really started again. I know it's more difficult to do it on a bike than in a car, but nevertheless, like, just stop. If you want to do you get one of those indoor bike things, right? Get one of them, right? If you want to get in the zone and just charge it, I'm trying to get healthy, get in the zone. You want to get in the zone, fine. Do it in your own home. Go to the gym. They have those, what they call spinning classes or something, you know, where they're on the bikes, they don't move. Get on one of them. Get in the zone, fine. Because I'll tell you this now, like, if there was someone jogging around Sefton Park and you were standing there and they didn't go around you, they literally pushed you out the way because they're jogging and they're in the zone and they don't want to stop. That would be assault. That would be assault right there. You can't do that. And you can't use the excuses, I was in the zone, I didn't want to stop, I was in the zone. Yeah, stop. Just stop. And that goes for motorists as well. There's this stupid system that we have set up. The cars must not stop. Ever. You know, and one of the things I like about Durham in a way is that there's lots of roundabouts, right? So it means if you're in a hurry to get somewhere and it's the middle of the night, there's no other cars and you don't have to stop at a red light and wait, you know. But at the same time, sometimes you need to stop driving. I was thinking about this the other day. I drove from Derby up to Durham and I didn't stop. Like, there were no traffic lights in the whole journey. And, it's too much. I need to just stop and just sort of collect my thoughts and go, okay, where am I going? Where am I? But it's constant, like 2 hours of driving with just no stopping at all. Like, because it was all roundabouts. There was no other cars in the way. And so you get on the motorway, there's no traffic lights on the motorway, you just on and off, and the off ramps and stuff like that. And I need that. I need to stop now and again. I think this is going a bit too far. It's always funny when we go back to Liverpool, me and Kat, and she's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe how many traffic lights there are here." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, a happy medium. A happy medium. There's nothing wrong with having to stop. And if we have to try and recreate our urban environments for the needs of the car that can't stop, it's not just the needs of the car, but the car that can never be stopped. It has to keep moving at all times. You end up with an absolute concrete nightmare, like once you get across the water into Newcastle, where you go into a spaghetti junction of concrete abominations, where they have like this sort of inner city motorway that overshadows all the houses and old buildings around it, and it just looks like some dystopian hellscape from a 1990s video game called Beneath the Steel Sky. I don't want that. It's fine. Just put a junction in. Just put a junction. Put a roundabout in if you want. But you don't need to have these on ramps and off ramps and signs. And if you miss the sign, you got to travel for another 10 miles to get back to where you were. Stop it. Slow down. No one needs to be anywhere that fast. Unless you're dying in an ambulance, you don't need to be anywhere that fast. I just want to take the volume down. Road rage. People get really, really angry in the car, which they wouldn't in real life. If you were walking down the street and there's someone in your way, you just walk around them. You wouldn't walk around them going, "You bastard, how dare you, I'll kill you all." But you're in a car and someone stopped and you're like, "Oh, I've got to go around them. Oh, dickhead, right, making me go around you." Because people feel like they're in the car, they're invincible. It's like an American owning a gun turns them into dickheads. Because they're like, "I can kill anything. I've got a little portable killing machine. Woo! Bang, 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 bang." Very childish. Very, very childish. Anyway, back to the pew. And then we've got Our Daughters Will Always Be With Us. This is about the fathers of 2 of the kids who were murdered in Southport, and they're running the London Marathon this weekend. And then the Financial Times here. We'll stop on the Financial Times for a moment. Ukraine raids. Trump tells Putin to stop. Capital letters, by the way. China tells White House to cancel all unilateral tariffs if it wants trade talks. Beijing hardens battle stance. Start of dialogue with US denied. Trump updates are fake news. China's got America over a barrel. It's absolutely got it over a barrel. America doesn't stand a chance. Because here's the thing. I know China sells a lot of stuff to America, but it's only 15% of their entire trade. So they've got 85% to fall back on. But more than that, they've got something over America. Like, there's nothing that America has that China needs, that China can't source from elsewhere. There's literally nothing I can think of. If you can think of something that America has that China desperately needs that it can't get from elsewhere, I'd be quite impressed. The only thing I could maybe think of is semiconductors, is microchips that are used to fuel AI. But by the looks of it, China's just found a way of making AI work for a lot less power and a lot less computer processing. I can't see anything. Whereas America needs rare earth materials from China, because China has 90% of the world's refined rare earth materials. Rare earth minerals, rare earth metals, you name them. They're from China. And they've cut off the supply to America. And America is going to, it's a lifeline for America. America's going to choke and die without them. A lot of American industry absolutely relies on them. The American military relies on them. Yeah. So there you go. The Chinese government is not full of idiots. Who knew? Oh, indeed. Okay, so there's a story in the Daily Star about someone pooing in a shoe. And then we've got the Metro here. A lost chance to stop tech firms killing our kids as new online safety rules revealed. Father of the teen suicide victim says 40-point code is too cautious. And I haven't read through the code yet, but I probably agree with that to some degree, because it does seem a little bit much, a little bit too little. Sorry, a little bit too much, a little bit too little. I think that when there's the onus is placed on parents and the children themselves, and there's just too many get outs, I think this needs to be something that is absolutely 100% solid. And this is why I think it needs to be a hardware-based solution, amongst other things, amongst education for kids, also for parents, stuff like that. But my main argument on this is that you can put as many rules as you like on Meta, on Twitter, on Snapchat, TikTok. You can put rules on them. Fine. However, here's the thing, right? You can put rules on this stuff, but someone else can make an app that goes on that phone that does exactly the same thing. And if you want to go round trying to stop each individual company doing that each individual thing, you're not going to get very far. And yeah, you might make a rule saying this, these apps can't do this, and the big apps will have to change, but the small apps won't. And that's the problem. One of the things I heard about TikTok is they were going to try and restrict it so that it turns off at 10 o'clock, which is something that you could have set up on junior phones. They just don't work after 10, except to make an emergency call. That's it. 10 o'clock, end of. They just stop working everywhere in the world. Anywhere they are, picks up the local time and says no. Even if you try and put the wrong time into it, they'll go, no, that's not the time. This is the time from the local, cell station here. And the VPNs don't work. No access to the dark web. No access to the web. You can't get online. You can go to the Wikipedia app, which is curated. You can go to the app for the BBC News, but you can't just type in any old URL and go there. And I think that's right. Because even though I've got loads of websites and I would like people to visit them, I don't see why a kid should be advertised to by a website with adverts on. If we're going to have rules against advertising certain things to kids, how do you know? If you've got an advert for junk food or whatever it is that you don't want to advertise to kids on the telly, how do you police that on the internet unless you make sure that everything they have on their phone is curated and they can't jailbreak that phone? It just can't be done. Like I said, it should be like trying to play a PlayStation 1 game on an N64. Like near impossible. MZ says rare earth elements source internally and elsewhere, brackets Africa, mining and industrial process. They planned that all for decades. Yeah, of course they did. The Chinese were all over West Africa, Central Africa when I was there. I remember distinctly when I was in Kinshasa seeing a chain gang. Oh, it wasn't a chain gang because they weren't chained up to each other, but it was a gang of workers, navvies, whatever, at the side of the road with pickaxes. Literally something out of a fucking, American movie from the Deep South in the 1930s. Side of the road, pickaxes. All of the workers were black. The foreman, Chinese. And I was like, interesting. A lot of the lorries that I saw, you'd see these massive lorries with the 40-foot containers on the back filled with raw materials. And the driver, Chinese. And there'd be a nice road. And I'd be like, oh, this is a nice road. And the people say, yeah, this was paid for by the Chinese. This is the road from the mine to the port. And what I found very interesting going across West Africa is time and time again, the closer you got to the border with the neighbouring country, the shitter the road got. Like the roads just went terrible because they weren't being used by the Chinese mining companies. They just wanted a road from the mine to the port. They weren't interested in going into someone else's country. And so that there was like one really good road that went sort of, let's say, north-south of the country, but there wasn't a nice road that went east-west. Yes, indeed. A lockdown device would be a great idea, but technically impossible, unfortunately. Why would it be impossible, Daylight Dave? Explain to me why. If I get an iPhone, right, unless I jailbreak the iPhone, which isn't easy, and I don't think a 9-year-old could probably do. I don't know. Kids are quite smart. But generally speaking, if I get an iPhone out the box, the only apps I can put on that iPhone are the apps that Apple allow me to put on that iPhone. That is why Apple can proudly say that they get fuck all viruses, because viruses just simply do not work on their devices. And that's just not on a phone, that's on an Apple computer as well. And that's why, piracy is harder for Apple users. It's not impossible, but it's harder. But like, they do it. They absolutely do it. And so I don't see why it would be that different. And you can say, well, there'll be ways around it. There'll be ways around it. Yeah, but the vast majority of people won't be arsed with that. The vast majority of kids will not be arsed with that. And also, you can have it set up so that if anyone does try and jailbreak it, it sends an alert to the parents saying, hey, your kid's trying to jailbreak this. Because there's a process. It's not like going to be an instantaneous thing that you just plug something in and instantly it's jailbroken. It wouldn't work like that. It would take a few milliseconds at least for the virus or whatever you're putting on to jailbreak it gets in. And in that milliseconds, there's a thing saying, something's been plugged in. Something's been plugged in before it even reads what's on the card, before it even reads what's on the USB stick. It says something's been plugged in. And that goes to the parents. The parents go, oh, what did you just plug into your phone? Oh, it was nothing. It was just a little gadget. Yeah, but they're easy to circumvent. No, they're not, Daylight Dave. They might be easy for you to circumvent because you know a lot about this stuff. But most people, 99% of people, don't know this stuff. How many times have we been online and talking to people and they've gone, oh, I haven't seen that particular TV show or film. I don't have Apple TV or I don't have this and I don't. And you're sitting there going, I know how you get it. Because it's easy for you. You've been doing it for years, being a privateer. But like for most people, they haven't even thought of it. A chain gang, says Benjamin Nungan. They went chained together. It was just a group of African men, men from Congo, Congolese men, who were working at the side of the road. But the foreman was Chinese. It just really stuck in my head. When I was going through Congo, and something that always stuck in my head. In Congo, they have the saboteurs. Is it saboteurs? Is it these are the people who dress really elaborately. They dress up in these amazing clothes, and they're from quite poverty-stricken areas of the country. And there's a whole tradition of it over there. And I just remember it's like one of those images that's kind of burnt into your mind. And I was on the bus, and there was this little mud shack, right? And there was this old guy standing outside this mud shack, just on the outskirts of Kinshasa, and he was wearing the most beautiful white suit, not a blemish. It's on a mud track, not a blemish on it. He had white shoes on it, like pointy shoes, and the guy looked like the fucking dude. Like, this guy looked like so fucking cool. I was trying to get my camera out, to go, oh shit. I didn't manage to get a shot of him. But it was the kind of thing that you'd expect to see on the front cover of National Geographic or something. They're doing a thing about Congo, about the culture in Congo. I was like, that is beautiful. Most of the 9-year-olds in the family would have unlocked it at 6. But worse is a paedophile being able to identify targets more easily and coach them in circumventing the restrictions. Yeah, but that's the point. At the moment, it's all software-based, which is easy. You are right to circumvent, all right? If it's hardware-based, it's a lot more difficult. Like, even just trying to get an app that is designed for an Apple device to work on an iPhone, to work on the Samsung phone or a Sony phone is really difficult. There's a process you need to go through. I don't see why everyone's like, oh no, it wouldn't work. Because, 1% of the kids will be able to get around it. I'm like, at the moment, 100% of the kids get around it because they can do whatever they want. They got access to the internet. And all we're doing is relying on the better nature of Google or Opera or whatever to try and rein it in and go, okay, well, no, we're going to put safe search on this. We're going to blare out certain images. Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff written on the internet and people can see stuff and all the shit on fucking YouTube. You got your Andrew Tate on Rumble and stuff like that. That's all accessible at the moment. Just go to rumble.com or whatever it is on the internet, on your phone. It's I know it's not gonna be something that will absolutely end the scourge of the problem of children with phones accessing stuff they shouldn't access. I mean, some will slip through the cracks, but the vast majority of kids are not going to be able to play Game Gear games on their Game Boy. They're just won't work. It just will not work. I mean, even if you manage to program a bloody cartridge and put it into your Game Boy and then try and play it, it's not the right coding. The Game Boy's like, I don't even know what to do with this. So yeah, I would disagree. It's getting quite advanced, says Daylight Dave. What's getting quite advanced? Let's be clear, that is all software. There's no such thing as hardware restriction. Yes, there is. There absolutely is. I'll give an example. A Game Gear game, which is shaped like this, can't fit in to a Game Boy. It just can't. There's a hardware restriction for you. You can't get a disc from a PS1 into an N64 because that takes cartridges. You can't get one of the little disc things from a PSP. You can't put that in a Nintendo Switch. But even if you could, it wouldn't work. Because it's a different fucking thing. It's a whole different format. It's a whole different programming language. It's completely different. So yeah, I mean, the idea that you couldn't do this and saying, oh, well, people get around it. Of course, some will get around it. But the vast majority, we bring in a rule says you can't have a phone till you're 10 years old or 11 years old. And when you do get a phone, it's got to be one of these junior phones. That restricts a lot of things just off the bat. And the phones at the moment, we've got family restrictions on it. We've got restrictions on how much time kids can spend on each different individual app. But I mean, you do have to still keep an eye on them. The fact that kids are using WhatsApp and anyone can send anything via WhatsApp with their phone number. They get their kid's phone number. They can send a picture of their dick to that kid at the moment on WhatsApp, on kids' phones, on 11-year-olds' phones. They can do that. And there's fuck all stopping them. Realistically, there is fuck all stopping them. If there was a version of WhatsApp that only worked on a child's phone and it didn't allow people, there's no way of getting around it. If their phone number is not in your phone, you will not get a message off them. They cannot contact you unless they have actually put your number in their phone. It's a whole different, it's not WhatsApp. It's a completely different setup to WhatsApp. It's just made by the same company and it looks similar, but it's a different program. Even if you encrypt it for update, the keys will eventually either leak or be figured out so that new firmware can be uploaded manually. Okay, all right, I give up. All right, let's do nothing. Let's just leave it as it is, because obviously kids will get around it anyway. So what's even the point of trying? Because every kid in the world is just like this, tech genius who can just jailbreak a phone. I'll live in a world where people can't even fucking send emails. Yeah, the kids are going to all jailbreak the phone, so there's no point in giving them a special phone that doesn't allow you to do a load of stuff that you can do on an adult phone. Schools use phones in lessons for research. Cheaper to use kids' phones than provide the facility. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They should still have phones. They should. I'm not saying to take the phones off them, because that's the other thing. The people always take the phones off them. Don't let them have phones. And I'm like, that's not going to work. How is that even going to begin to work? You can't police it like that. Oh, kids can't have phones. But parents want their kids to have phones. One, so they're not feeling left out when other kids are doing stuff, but also keep an eye on them. I know it's a bit Black Mirror, but if your kid's got a phone on them, you know where they are at all times. No, not every kid is not capable. You just need one kid in the class who can, and then it fails. Yeah, but I mean, I'm sorry, but I just think that attitude is, it's like it's like naive to think that they'll just all get away with it because they're all so clever. I'm like, really? They will all get away with it? Like everyone in the class, no one's parent would look over their shoulder at one point and go, hang on, you shouldn't be on that. You shouldn't be accessing that. How did you get onto that? And then have a look at the actual phone. That's just the idea that all parents are dickheads and all children are geniuses. All right, mate. I'm sorry. I'm a bit bamboozled by the obvious people in the chat who know a lot about computers, assuming that everyone else knows a lot about computers. They don't. They really, really don't, Most people don't know how the phone works at all, at the best of times. I'm not saying don't try, I'm saying don't expect it to work. So it sounds very much like you're saying don't try, Joanna. It really does. Everyone's saying, oh no, they'll get around it. Yes, some children will get around it. But I feel like I'm having an argument here saying that murder should be illegal. And you're saying to me, yeah, but there'll still be murders. Yes. Well, we shouldn't do it then. What do you mean? We shouldn't make it illegal because it won't work. What do you mean it won't work? Because there'll still be murders. Okay. It doesn't need to be absolute. It doesn't need to be 100%. It can never be 100%. Humans are messy. Human civilization is messy. Human society is messy. It won't be 100%. But it will be a fuckload more than it is at the moment. Because at the moment, kids are accessing stuff at a very early age that they should not be looking at. If you have a phone that is set up in such a way that they literally cannot do that on that phone unless they go through a process of changing I don't even know if you're making this a hardware-based thing, right? This lock is a hardware-based thing. You make it so that they can update the firmware, they can put a flash drive in, they can do all this stuff and change things, right? But if you make it part of the hardware of the system that these things just can't be done, right? It would require them to open up their phone and take out whatever the block is, the physical block that you have put into the phone to stop them getting access to whatever it is, to stop a program being put onto the phone that would allow it to be jailbroken. So yeah, I'm sure there will be a kid with a soldering iron and a big, expensive bit of kit that he can take a phone apart and take off the little bit of the blocker that stops them from accessing porn on the internet. But it wouldn't stop them from accessing porn. Let's be realistic. It would stop them putting a program on the phone that isn't meant for the phone, that isn't accredited to the phone. And if we're going to have our banking apps on the phone, and we're going to be using these incredibly difficult to crack keys that can't be cracked using prime numbers, all that kind of stuff. I mean, each phone's got its own code that you need to have that unique code in order to update anything. Like, there are ways you could talk to a cryptocurrency. No, not crypto expert. A crypto security expert, and they'll tell you ways of stopping people from, doing anything with their phones that they don't want them to. And especially if it's a bit of hardware that they have to take off, physically, you have to remove that from the phone to be able to add a program to the phone that the phone doesn't recognize. Andrew Ray's inquiry, says Diz. Andrew Ray. Okay, where's Andrew Ray? Oh my God, there's so many messages. Daylight Dave, MZ, Andrew Ray. What's the title of this morning brew? It's about not going to America, isn't it? Travel advisory, do not enter the United States. Isn't that written under the video? What's even happening here? Okay, Diz, I've answered the inquiry. What else do we need to do? My brother, a US citizen, has prostate cancer recurring, wants me to visit. He has a house in Key Largo and a farm near Orlando. Would be easier to go through Orlando v Miami as Disney tourist route. Yeah, but Andrew, if you go there, and this is going to be something that I should have mentioned actually, if you do have to go to America, what to do. First of all, right, clear your internet history. If you are subscribed to this channel, as you are, Andrew, stop your subscription. And I know that's a bit shit for me because it means I get a little bit less money, but don't worry about it. Just stop your subscription because they might check. They might check all the channels that you're subscribed to. And they'll go, oh, you're subscribed to this lefty bastard who, we threw out of America all those years ago. I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. But also, defriend, unfriend, or even block people on Facebook and other places that you follow. You're going to have to make a list of them, unfortunately, or set up a new account under a different name. So if they do check your phone and they check on your socials, it's your different accounts. It's not your main accounts. But just be aware that they might check your social media. And don't give them any impression that you're going to go and work. Do not say the word work. Do not pretend that just try not to mention that at all. And also, if they do pull you to one side, and look, the vast majority of tourists aren't going to get pulled to one side, but if they do, just be nice, smile, polite, explain to them what's happening, why you're there. Don't get shitty with them. Don't tell them to fuck off, although you might be tempted to, and just go along with their bullshit for the time being. Take a burner, says Full More Music. Yeah. And what about a burner phone? Yeah, take a burner. Wild Heart, cautious mandatory upgrades to core code of the device would be a functional way around homebrew stroke cracks, similar how to Nintendo handles homebrew on its current generation consoles. It took a long time for them to get the homebrew working on the Nintendo Wii. I think it was like 2 years. I mean, it might not have been that long, but it took a while. And that was on one particular console. That was 20 years ago, and they really, really hammered it. They were trying to, suss out how to get into it. If you're talking about lots of different phones, but different companies, and each one's got a unique code, and they will set up a little bit differently to each other, the architecture of the hardware is slightly different. I can't see how it would be easy to get around, and how one kid in the class, if there's a structural point to the actual hardware of the phone, the way it is set up, that doesn't allow any programs that don't have a particular code that is unique to that phone, in order to put that app on there. And it's something that continuously checks after the event. So you have to block it checking. And if there is a thing where something is being blocked on the phone, it sends a message. It just, as simple as that, it sends a message to the parent phone saying something's happening here. Check. I need to be checked. Yeah, I think it would take so long to get around that. By the time that people suss out how to do it for a particular model of phone, there'll be a new model of phone which will do it slightly differently. So that's them fucked. We have to try. Absolutism is a fallacy, especially in this case. I would have R&D funding into this if I were Chancellor or PM. Yes, so would I, one angry pagan. It's like wanting to get 100% of what you want off Labour. That's not going to happen. To be honest with you, I'm not even getting fucking 99% of what I want. 1% of what I want. Sorry. They give me 99% of shit that I don't want at the moment. Oh, they're going to get their asses handed to them next week in the locals, aren't they? We should probably talk about that later with Phil Morehouse on the agenda. So I know I've gone way over time by an hour and 13 minutes, but I've had a few massive super chats come in today. A hyper chat, which is remarkable. I got to use my hyper chat button. I do have a little thing that's got I control what comes up, and there is a button here marked hyper chat. So if I press that, the hyper chat things comes up. It's so cool. Never had to use it before. So thank you very much to everyone who has contributed today to the channel. Sorry for getting into a fight with everyone there. I was like, yeah, come on, come at me. Go with God, everyone. But a big shout out definitely to Di and to everybody else, Alistair in the chat there, and to Ori as well. For the £100 super chat, so kind, so incredibly kind. I'm just going to get off now. I will see you at 1 o'clock for the agenda where we'll be talking about Labour. So you might want to join us for that, because I'm not happy. I don't think Phil's very happy either. So we can all have a bit of a rant. Let's all get together and give Labour a good kicking just before they get a kicking in the locals next week. And we'll see if we can find some, I don't know, little ray of sunshine at the end of the horizon. I don't know. At the end of the rainbow? At the end of the rain? At the end of the shit tunnel that we're in? The tunnel of shit? Maybe there's a ray of sunshine at the end of the tunnel of shit. I don't know. We'll get into that. 1 o'clock today. Me and Phil Morehouse. And then if you can't join us for that, that's fine. Maybe watch it later. But also, I'll be back at 9:30 tonight for the Friday night social. And hopefully it'll be a good one. I'll ask Femi along. See if he'll like to join us. Anyway, okay, so I'm getting off now. Thanks very much for watching. Again, thank you so much for the super chats. It's really, really kind of you. Thanks to everyone who contributed into the chat, even the ones I had an argument with. Love you, really. And at 1 o'clock, I will see you again, hopefully. And until then, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.